tuned. The stream is about to begin.
All right, my teacher friends, I got a good one for us today. Literary Yoga Throwdown. With the coming holidays, I notice my kids get really squirrely and it's hard to stick to like real, true, pedantic academic things. So I like to throw out some of my arsenal as far as the gamification and edutainment goes. And this is a cool little exercise that helps us practice our reads in a real fun, goofy way. I have a ton of fun with this. My kids actually ask to play this all the time. So for this particular piece, it's just a little explainer video, and I'll run you through how we analyze Matthew Olzmann's poem, Mountain Dew Commercial Disguised, as a love poem. It's very interesting, very fun, and I think it's a really cool activity to do right before the holidays when you need to get a good lesson in, but the kids aren't necessarily all there. So take care and check this out. All right, my teacher friends. So down below in the video's descriptors, you can find links to download all the forthcoming slides, especially the placards that you're going to need to operate this gamified version of this literary yoga. As always, I'll Bob Ross an example, and I'm going to be using a poem called Mountain Dew Commercial Disguised as a Love Poem by Matthew Olzmann. Super cool poem. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't. So let's talk about the setup real quick. So I typically have class sizes of about 24 to 26. So I like to divide the class into 3 to 5 teams. I found teams of like 4 to 5 work best. I like to post the poem on the smartboard, and I also distribute paper copies of it. I assign each team a yoga mat zone. All right. So there's like an asana or a particular place where we separate them just so that we're not bumping bodies. And then I give each team the throwdown cards. And I alluded to this earlier. The cards are forthcoming. So you'll see them in just a second here. So some of the poses that we'll have are like the mountain pose, the forward fold, downward dog, warrior two, the tree, the lotus, just basic common yoga poses. And on the cards, there's actually a pictorial image of that pose because I'm assuming most kids don't know these poses. They'll draw these poses randomly throughout the game. So in terms of how the game works, teacher calls strike the pose. Teams have like 20 to 40 seconds to hold the yoga pose and complete its analytical challenge with textual support. That actually takes a little longer, depending on where you're at in the year and how much exposure they've had to poetry. My kids need a couple of minutes to kind of unravel the term, the device, the technique, and then go support hunting for it. So that took about, anywhere from like 2, 3, 4 minutes. So one person from each team reads their answer aloud. The teacher can award a point system, 1 to 3 points per team for accuracy, specificity, creativity, textual support, to what extent you get your nose in the text and how thorough is the response. And then I do this quirky little thing where I give bonus points if the pose is held with excellent form, kind of critique that just to make it a little bit more goofy. So the first team to 25 points or until the bell rings, highest score wins. So these are my game cards, all right? The first one is mountain pose, and you can see there the pictorial image of it. So the grounding calm, what the poem is really about. And then here's my Bob Ross sample. So if I'm on a team and I'm the spokesperson, I might say something like this. So as far as evidence, the poem opens with, so here's what I've got, the reasons why our marriage might work. All right, that's the line that you got to focus on. In terms of the analysis, The poem pretends to list trivial reasons the marriage might work, but beneath the humor and specificity lies an assertion. Love is made of ordinary, unglamorous, deeply human gestures. The Mountain Dew moment at the end becomes the grounding metaphor. The smallest act, buying a soda with one's last dime, embodies the largest truth, and that is devotion. So number 2, as far as the card goes, is the forward fold. What's hidden? What's the subtext, the silence, the vulnerability? And again, if I'm a student in this particular group, I might say this. Here's the textual support, the evidence, the long catalog of quirks, because you yell at your keys, because you think swan. So all those because clauses. In terms of the analysis, I could say, the speaker never directly says, I love you, or I'm afraid our marriage will fail. But the anxious conditional phrasing, might work, reveals fear and tenderness beneath the humor. The accumulation of details suggests a desperate attempt to reassure oneself that love can be built from imperfect materials. You can see here that I want students to be thorough. I want to get our nose in the text. I want to talk in the text and not around the text. I'll show you one more, and then I'll just run through the other remaining cards so that you can get a sense. So downward dog would be the form, the line, the breaks, the structure of the piece. So evidence, the poem is one long breathless sentence built entirely of because, right? Kids need to make that observation. In terms of the analysis, you got this cascading syntax that mimics a yoga flow, one pose leading to the next, one memory sliding into another. You got a lot of enjambment with the because when we move, the contents of what you packed were written inside the boxes, creates a feeling of tumbling intimacy, no pause for breath, as if love is remembered faster than it can be spoken. The single sentence sprawl mirrors how affection actually accumulates, not in thesis statements, but in remembered fragments. So you can see here, the next one I have Warrior 2, which is the tensions, the juxtapositions, the contradictions. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but you can see here I model for the students and for teachers the evidence and the analysis. Number 5 is the tree pose. So those branching interpretations of imagery and symbolism. And you can see there's the evidence and the analysis. The lotus pose is the authorial intent. And I find that oftentimes this is the trick for kids. They misread or don't fully get their head around the poem and the author's intent. But you can see here again, I've done the same thing with the evidence and the analysis. Number 7 is the child's pose. So get to tone and the emotional core. So you can see here that we're doing a total read of the poem, and we're basically training kids to get the poem in its entirety, because oftentimes they leave these parts out. Number 8 is the pigeon pose. And again, all of these have the pictorial image. So pain and past hardship, got into some of the thematic aspects of the piece. There's the evidence and the analysis. The bridge pose, how one detail connects the whole poem. And I'll show you this one real quick. The evidence, nearly every line begins with because. The analysis, the entire poem becomes a bridge built on cause and effect, but humorously imprecise. The syntax suggests love exists because of these moments and maybe only because of them. The poem itself becomes the bridge between doubt, might work, and devotion, the Mountain Dew gesture. And the last one, Savasana, the final resting insight. And for the concluding synthesis, I would want kids to say something like the poem ends on stillness, one quiet, heartbreaking act of love. After all the noisy jokes, the contradictions, and domestic chaos, the speaker finally rests in the recognition that love is proven through unglamorous sacrifice. Savasana asks us to stop and feel. The last dime, Mountain Dew, becomes the distilled truth of devotion. So that's kind of what you would do. You can choose any poem you want for this and use the same cards. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. I do a lot with the YouTube channel, and I often go out and visit schools and do professional development and Zooms and do one-on-one and small group teacher training. So if that's something you're interested in exploring with me, just give me a holler at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. So hope you enjoy that one. Happy holidays, and I'll see you around.